The apostate's marriage. Among the judgments pertaining to apostasy is that the marriage contract is breached and invalidated if the blasphemy took place before consummation. Invalidated, immediately, if the blasphemy took place before consummation. Not if they consummated their marriage already. The woman would not be lawful for him even if the apostate returned to Islam, unless they did a new marriage contract. So, apostasy before consummation immediately interrupts and invalidates, nullifies the marriage. It's not a divorce, though. There are several ways to breach a marriage besides divorce. Divorce is only one of them. And apostasy is another. And there are still other ways. If the apostasy took place after consummation, then if the apostate returned to Islam before the end of the iddah, the postmarital waiting period, iddah, postmarital waiting period, then it became clear that the marriage remained intact and there is no need for a new marriage contract. All right. So let's make sure this judgment is clear here. We talked about just a moment ago the judgment if one of the two spouses committed apostasy before any consummation, which is that their marriage is immediately, completely dissolved. That person needs to come back to Islam, whether it was the man or the woman, and if they want to be married, they have to do a new marriage contract. So what if they did consummate the marriage? Then, if they did consummate the marriage, and then one of the two spouses commits apostasy, then the marriage is suspended. Not dissolved, invalidated, no, suspended. Suspended here means something is unclear. And we have to wait for what will clarify their situation. So suspended here doesn't mean they're married, and suspended doesn't mean they're not married. So if that apostate comes back to Islam before the woman's iddah expires, then it became clear that their marriage was never invalidated. They were married since the time of the apostasy. And if the apostate doesn't come back to Islam before the iddah expires, then it becomes clear that their marriage was invalidated since the time of apostasy, since the moment of apostasy. So, when a couple consummates their marriage and then one of them commits apostasy, their marriage is suspended and something is unclear. We have to wait for the clarity to appear. One of two things is going to happen first. Either the apostate is going to come back to Islam before the iddah is over, or else the iddah will expire before the apostate comes back to Islam. So if the apostate comes back before the iddah expires, then it becomes clear that their marriage was never dissolved. Never. And if the iddah expires before the apostate comes back, then it becomes clear that their marriage was broken since the moment of apostasy, dissolved. So, if the apostasy took place after consummation, then if the apostate returned to Islam before the end of the iddah, it became clear that the marriage remained intact and there is no need for a new marriage contract. However, If the iddah ended before the apostate returned to Islam, a new marriage contract is needed. Yani, of course, if that apostate came back to Islam. Hence, the relationship between them is forbidden before he returns to Islam, he or she. Before he or she returns to Islam. But you don't have to say he or she in English language. You can say he and it means he or she. But because of like feminism movement and things like that, like back in the 70s, they started saying he or she, for example. Maybe before or after that time. But originally it's enough just to say he. Anyway, hence the relationship between them is forbidden before he or she returns to Islam. I just like to put it here for the sake of the religious judgment. Usually I avoid that. And the sexual intercourse is adultery. Before it becomes clear what's the judgment of their marriage, if they had sexual intercourse, it's zina, it's haram. Even though their case is unclear, they have to act like they're not married. The judgment is the same whether the husband or the wife blasphemed. According to the Hanafiya, consummation has no effect. The contract is breached. So according to the Hanafi school, apostasy will invalidate your marriage, period. Consummation or no consummation. The marriage contract of an apostate is invalid whether he married an apostate like himself, or a Jew, or a Christian, or a pagan, or anyone else. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ